Hi, in today's tutorial we're going to look at modeling this island in Cinema4D and rendering it in Corona. If you're not using Corona, that's no big deal. Much of what we're going to look at is applicable to Cinema4D generally. Yeah, let's get going. Now, the release of Cinema4D I'm running is release 21. Release 22 has been released as I speak. But anyway, this is in release 21. So what we're going to do is do all of this with assets that ship with Cinema4D. That is, assets from the content library. So we go to the content browser, and go to the top of the directory. There's presets. We'll go in. We'll get in 3D Objects Volume 2. Go down to Plants. Your Garden and Exotic we'll go to. There's a lot of cool palm trees in here actually, but I'm going to do a sort of a temperate kind of island rather than a tropical one. So I'm going to grab these two fir trees. They're pretty nice. So there they are. The other asset that we're going to use, we're going to illuminate our scene with an HDRI image on a sky object. So there we go, presets, then there's a subfolder called presets, and then we go down to lighting, and there's HDRI, and with the HDRI image we're going to use is this one, sky 01, no ground. So double click that, and it appears down here in the material manager, and there it is. And at the moment all of these are native Cinema4D materials. We're going to actually want to create Corona materials on the way through, but for now we'll just grab these. And the last asset I'm going to get is in materials, presets, down to materials, and down to ground. Where is it? There it is, ground. We're going to grab this rocks texture, and it's made by RD Textures, and it's got a displacement map in it that makes some lumpy kind of rocky ground textures. There's a couple of other RD textures here that are kind of fun to play with, and I suggest you do, but for now we're just going to grab that one, and we have all the assets we need. Now one thing though is we have a look at this sky. It's black below the horizon, and if we just go back to Photoshop for a second and have a look at our island, we've got a kind of fuzzy horizon. We don't have a black line. We don't want a black line. So what I want to do is alter that texture so we don't have a black horizon. And so the best way to do that really, and also I wanted to do a couple of things with the tree textures. The best way to do that is actually save the project with assets, and then you'll get a folder with the textures in it, and you can navigate to that, and you can manipulate the textures in Photoshop. And I've done that already, so I'm not going to go through that with you. I'll just show you what I came up with here in Photoshop. There's the original HDRI image, and I've just kind of duplicated a portion of the bottom of the sky down and sort of blurred it so that we have a kind of fuzzy horizon. I haven't just flipped the whole sky upside down because I want a blurry horizon, and B, I don't want to reproduce the sun. I want two suns in the image. And if you recall, this HDRI image is actually going to illuminate the scene, and there's a spot in the middle of it. There's actually the sun. It casts shadows and does all that kind of good stuff. So if we go back to Photoshop, Cinema, and we create a sky object, boom, and we apply, right click, apply, so apply the sky material there. We actually have a quick look at it, and you can see that gadget there in the sky. That's actually where the sun is, and it's going to illuminate our scene. Okay, so we're going to do this in Corona though. So first of all, we'll actually get Corona happening. So we go to our render settings, and all we do is choose Corona. That's pretty much all we need to do. But it'll just keep calculating endless iterations of the image to improve the quality of it unless we set a limit. So I'm just going to set a limit here, pass limit of 4, which will be enough for our purposes as we roll through. The other thing I'm going to do is under edit project settings, I'm going to uncheck linear workflow, which is the default when you create a new cinema file. I don't want linear workflow. I'm just going to work with simple 8-bit RGB images. So that's that. Okay, so now we want to convert our materials to Corona materials. Under the Corona menu, there is actually just a kind of convert scene. This is okay for really simple materials, but a lot of materials you're going to want to build from scratch. So I don't think I'm going to bother doing that. But we'll see that there are some problems if we do that. The first problem is that I'm going to have a look at our tree up close and see that the fronds are made. Ooh, I'm just going to make sure we can see the outline of the polygons. So that was under window options, configure. Configure, and then down here, cell wireframe. I've got that visible. Okay, so you can see that the fronds of the pine trees is made by just a transparent texture applied to a rectangle polygon. Now the transparency in it is created with this alpha channel, and you'll see that it's a black and white image of the frond. Well, it's actually a TIFF file that has an alpha channel embedded in it, and Cinema is clever enough to make use of that. If we uncheck image alpha, we're just using the color channel of the file. Corona doesn't support that. It doesn't have this checkbox here. So what we need to do is, once we've brought in these assets, is save project with assets. We go navigate, and just as we did with the manipulating the HDRI image in Photoshop, we just need to go open Photoshop or whatever your image editing program is and extract out that alpha channel and save it as a JPEG or something, so that we can use that as an opacity map in a Corona material. Okay, I know that was a little bit arcane, but there we go. That's a bit of the facts of life when you're doing Corona rendering. Now, we're just about ready to get cracking on this. So let's make our sky material, and it's going to be a light material, a Corona light material. So it's under this Corona menu. I'm going to create a light menu. And we're not going to use this image that has the black ground. We're going to use the one that we created earlier in Photoshop. So let's just load that image up. And here it is. I've got called it. It's got the same name, but it's added the word mirror to it. And I happen to know that the intensity I'm going to want is 2 rather than 1. I want it a bit brighter. Okay, and go back to the objects manager there, and I'm going to select the material tag on the sky, and just drag my new light material in there. So I now have the Corona material in there, and I'm just going to improve the appearance of it in the viewpoint a little bit by clicking on the preview attribute here and just increasing the resolution a bit, so we get a sharper image of it. This looks better. Okay, we could just about start rendering now. I might just do that, and you can see what's happening. We'll see what the problem is with the tree in a minute. Yeah, they look kind of funny. And that's because Corona isn't handling the alpha channel very well. So we're going to have to rebuild that. But just before we do, we want to make the ocean. The ocean is going to be just a really big plane. Ideally, in Cinema, you'd be using the floor object but Corona doesn't support that. So, but that's the bad news. Good news is it does support a very, very large plane. We'll just throw in a plane. We'll make it huge. Just going to ramp that up. And you can just go off to the right. In fact, it's getting clipped in the viewpoint now already. That's already a very big plane. So I'm just going to create a new Corona material. And I'm going to call that ocean. And I'm going to throw that on the plane that I've got selected already. And we hit the render in viewpoint button. We can see now that our sky is casting shadows off these trees onto our big plane that is going to be the ocean. Our trees don't look great, but let's just quickly, before we do more on the ocean, let's quickly just fix up the tree materials. What we need to do is create a new material, Corona material. Let's call it front one. And we'll move it over here. And we can just copy, just right click on the texture, the word texture in the diffuse channel here, and just go copy. Right click on it in the Corona material, which is front one, and just go paste. And we've got the color in there, but now we need the opacity. We can't use the alpha channel here because it's embedded in a TIFF file. So we had to save out a JPEG, as I said earlier. So I've done that earlier. So I'll just go navigate and get it. So it's this texture is called oopsie. This one's called CLO2 NED1. Okay. CLO2 NED1 opacity. Yeah, there we go. There it is. Now it's transparent. We're going to do the same. I'm just going to duplicate that over next to the other one. Hold down Control, drag it over. I'm just going to grab this color and paste it into this here. Got the wrong opacity map, so just go and get that again. So this one must be for NED2 opacity. See that? There it is. Okay, so now select texture tags objects. I've selected that material where it occurs. So both trees have the same material, so I'm going to just grab both of those, select texture tag objects, and then I'm going to drag in my front one and replace that for both trees. Right? You see that the two trees came in with their own materials. They're actually the same materials. So I'll grab that and that. Oops. And that. Right click, select texture tag objects, and I'm going to drag in. Well, I've called it from one, but that's wrong. That's actually from two. We name it from two. Okay. So now I'm going to do something similar for the bark. New material. Let's go to this bark object. Yeah. Well, actually, that's fruit. So I'll move this one over to bark. Call that bark. And I'm just going to copy, paste, and grab all of those barks. Select texture objects, and I'm going to throw in my bark. And I'm going to store that rock texture or something. Because I'm going to delete all these unused materials in a minute. So we'll get the fruit color as well. So this material we'll call fruit. Oops. Copy that texture. Paste it into my fruit texture. And then grab those two fruits. select the text objects, replace it with my fruit. Bingo. I've now updated the textures to Corona textures. I can actually just go edit, delete unused materials. And now I've got just Corona materials. Except for this rock song, which I applied to this cube so I didn't lose it when I deleted unused materials, because I'm not using it yet. But let's make a corrosion version of it just while we're here. No, actually we'll move on. Okay, let's work on our ocean material. I'm going to make it just reflective. So let's call it ocean. I thought I did that already, but no. Ocean. There we go. I'm going to make it reflective. So I don't need the diffuse channel. I'm just going to make it effective. I'm going to make it very reflective, like a material, like a mirror. So, oops, 20. Do it, and then bingo. It's not going to be super glossy, like super sharp reflection. I think water often isn't. So I'm just going to pull that back a little bit, and I think probably 0.95. A slight glossiness and blurriness. Let's hit the render button and see what we get. There we go. So there we go. Our trees look good, and we've got a slightly blurry ocean going off to infinity. Now you'll notice that we've got no waves. So we're just going to do that with displacement. So we double click our ocean material. It comes up in the material manager. We're going to check displacement, and we're going to add noise. I'm going to make it about a meter high, so 100 centimeters. Our ocean, our waves. I'm going to change the noise to an FBM noise. And I'm going to make the scale, the global scale, I'm going to get 30,000, very big. I've done this before, so I know how big I want to make this. So there, that's 30, 123 knots, and that is there. Let's hit the render button and see what's going to happen. You may be wondering if you know anything about the Corona 1 not using the interactive render. It's because it doesn't actually display displacement very well. I'll just show you that here. You can actually do interactive rendering. Here it is. Oh no, it has shown that. I think it's when you layer your displacement, it can get a bit weird. Let's have a look at it. Let's just quickly try that. I think that our texture is pretty nice. Let's render that again. But I think it's not nuanced sufficiently. So what I'm going to do is put another layer of noise on it. So we're going to have waves on our waves. So there it is. So when we get this a layered material. So the great thing about Corona is it supports and makes use of all the cool, Cinema4D material properties and shaders and so on. So I'm going to create another noise. This one's going to be smaller. It's basically just going to be the same thing. It's going to be FBM, but this time the scale is just going to be 10,000. 10, 23, and then I'm going to bring the opacity of that layer back so we see some of this first level of noise showing through. So hopefully what the effect will be, we've got little tiny waves on bigger waves. And there it is. Groovy. So there you go. Got a slightly more interesting kind of ocean happening. In fact, I might even just increase the scale of the big whales. I'm going to make that 40,000. 40, 1, 2, 3. And we'll hit that. And we might just check if that's going in the interactive viewport. So that's, yeah, I think that's better. So we go up here, interactive rendering. Oh yeah, no, it's working quite well. So we can actually move around the scene and the render updates. Pretty nice. Let's park that over there for now. What I want though is, I'm finding that a bit distracting at the moment, so I don't need it at the moment. What I want is for the horizon to be soft. So we just render that again, and we'll see that we've got a very hard edge to horizon. What I want is for the ocean to kind of disappear in the distance. So we just go jump over here to Photoshop and go to look at our original render. It's a kind of fuzzy, soft horizon in the distance there. So that's the effect we want. The way we're going to achieve that is we're going to flatten out the waves in the distance. We'll also change the opacity of the ocean into the distance. So for both of those, we're going to use a Fresnel. So let's deal with the displacement first. So a Fresnel texture, if you don't know already, is one where the appearance of things changes according to the angle of incidence, so the angle at which you're looking at it. So obviously you get a very shallow angle of incidence in the distance and a very steep one in the foreground. Oops, that's the wrong shader. Let's remove that. Shader is Fresnel. And I happen to know, because I remember I had to work this out about a million times, but in the distance, or low angle of incidence is actually on the left hand side, and steep angle of incidence is on the right. So I want the waves to flatten out to nothing in the distance. So I'm going to put black in the distance. So the way the alpha channel, the displacement map just comes solid black in the distance, and then it's white here. But I don't want the waves to be obliterated here. So I'm going to set this layer to multiply. What that means is the white doesn't show, only the black, and that means it's only showing in the distance, and it's only flattening out the waves in the distance. So if we hit the render now, we should see that the waves kind of soften out in the distance. And yeah, and the ocean becomes more mirror-like. It hasn't exactly softened the edge, but it has softened the waves. I think we can pull that slider back, so our waves flatten a little bit sooner now. So here it comes. There we go. You can see the effect. The waves are kind of becoming non-existent about here. We could push them a bit further away, perhaps. Let's just do that one. Okay, so beyond that zone, I want the ocean to just kind of disappear and become see-through, and we'll just see the sky texture. So we're going to do that with a Fresnel in the opacity channel. So here we'll just invoke opacity here, and we're going to create a Fresnel. Again, in the distance is on the left-hand side of that gradient. So we want see-through, which is black, in an opacity channel. We want see-through in the distance, and then visible up to the foreground. So let's see what happens there. We should see a soft edge to the ocean in the distance, and lo and behold, we do. There it is. That's the effect we want. We've basically, we've done kind of half the job here. We've got our environment set up. So that's pretty nice. And if we look into the teeth of the sun, we get this lovely effect of the sky burning out the ocean and everything. Let's have a quick look at that. Woohoo! Look at that. Marvellous stuff. Okay, so now we're going to build our island. So I'm going to just get a bit organized here. We'll call this island. And we'll throw all those objects in there. And then we'll just hide them. Don't need those. Actually, we might just make one of our trees visible, because that gives us a handle of scale and reminds us of where we are in the world. So that's kind of good. What we're going to do, we could, for our island, we could just throw in a landscape object and scale it up, And then if our ocean was visible, we could just submerge that object a bit. Just move it down. There we go. Got an island. Bob's your uncle. Hey! But we're going to make our own because it'll be more fun and more instructive. And we're going to basically use a plane. And we'll just hide our ocean. I'm going to call that plane ocean. It's handy just, be a bit disciplined about naming things, because you can, when a file gets complicated, you can lose your way. So here's our plane. We're going to make it about 400 meters by 400 meters. So it's 400 centimeters at the moment, so that's 400 centimeters. Just add a couple of noughts there. Boom, boom. Okay, so that's 401 that direction. Add a couple of noughts here. We now, oh, no, what have I done? 400, 100. Boom. So we've got our plane. And I'm going to subdivide this a lot. It's going to be 500 subdivisions by 500 subdivisions. So that's going to give us plenty to kind of sculpt with when we get, we're going to use the sculpt tools, which are fun to sculpt our island. So we're going to make this plane editable to do that. And we're going to use just, the sculpt tools. And use the brushes. We're not going to create a sculpt object, if you know about that. We're just going to use these brushes to sculpt our surface. It's kind of distracting to see all these little tiny rectangles there, or each of the polygons. We don't want to see those while we're sculpting, so we're just going to go to the window options, configure, and over here in the attribute manager we'll just turn off cell wireframe, so we're not looking at all those individual cells. So we've got this pull brush here. Let's hide my material manager, increase the pressure a bit, and there we go. We can just start raising our island out of the ocean there. I think in our example we just go to Photoshop. Yeah, I made a sort of Valentine shaped island there in that example. We could do that. Yeah, big heart. Whatever you like. We can write a little message. I heart you. That's pretty corny. A little archipelago of love. But no, let's not do that. Let's not do that. You can draw anything you want. What about a skull? Skull island. Skulls are all the rage these days, aren't they? I don't know why. There we go. But no, I'm just going to do like a volcanic island, like it's like got a crater in the middle, and so it's got like a bay. So I'm going to do that. So here we go. Oops. What's going on? Okay, on my pool. Oh, I've undone the editableness. So I'm going to make this plane editable. It's gone back to being a parametric object. I just got to quickly make it editable again, which is C, just the letter C on your keyboard if you want to do that, or you can touch that button up there in the top left. So that should be working again. Yeah, there we go. So yeah, crater island. You can have a lot of fun with this. Go sculpting all day, fiddling. Good fun. The knife tool's good for making ridges and valleys. So we'll do that in a tick. There we go. That's good enough. Bit of a and then a high point. So it's like the part of the lip of the volcano is collapsed, and so water's coming in. So let's use the knife tool here. Holding down the control key, we make a ridge. We don't. Oh, that's probably a bit too intense. Reduce the pressure. Maybe increase the size. There we go. Holding down the control key, we've got a sort of ridge line running around the top of our crater. And then not using the control key, we can make some little valleys. Maybe here, running down from our things, and then other little sub ridge lines coming down. We could just, hey, you can knock yourself out. That'll do. There's our island. One thing I want to do is make sure that this flat part out here is well below the ocean. So I'm going to go to segments mode, and if you hit U and then Q, U, Q, that'll select the outline. So I've selected all the outline, all the segments on the outline of that shape. And I bring up the move tool, and we have this tab here, soft selection comes up. If we enable that, we'll be able to influence, when we move this outline, we'll be able to influence some of the adjacent polygons. And just how many we're influencing will be given by this radius. We want to, maybe have a fringe of maybe, 50, 60 meters being influenced. So I'm just going to go 50, 100 into that, and you'll see, hopefully, it takes a little while to calculate. But yeah, so if I move those edge segments, I'm going to have some kind of trailing off influence on these ones. I think I need more. I'm going to go 60. Takes a little while again. Move that down, and there it is. I've sort of pyramidized my mountain, and that'll do. Deselect those segments. Go back to the object mode. I'm going to just smooth off the sculpt tool. I don't need that hard edge there. Don't need to endlessly finesse this. You'll probably do that yourself and do a much better job. But for now, we'll just that'll do. You'll notice that our viewpoint's clipping our island. We can actually, if we go to edit project settings, we can increase the clipping. View clipping at the moment is set to medium, and we'll just go large. Bing. Now we've got the whole island. Great. All right. So we turn our scene back on again. You can see that our ocean plane and the bottom plane of our island are co-extensive. They're in the same place, in other words. But we will just lower our plane so the ocean kind of inundates our bay. And that's pretty nice. We can hit the render button, have a look at what's happening there. There we go. It looks like an iceberg at the moment, but it won't very soon, because what we're going to do is we're going to apply our rock texture to it. This is still a Cinema4D material here. So we're going to create a Corona one. New material, call it rocks. There's a whole lot going on in this RD texture material. There's reflectance and bump and normal. I'm not going to worry about that for now, but you could transfer all of that across if you like. I'm just going to grab the color and the displacement. So copy the color. There's my rocks. Paste that into the diffuse channel. And I'm going to grab the displacement map. And got displace happening. Paste. Now I know how much I've done this exercise before, so I know how much displacement I want. I want about 250 meters of displacement, up, and maybe about 50 down. So we get this kind of lumpy island. I'm going to apply now that to this plane, which we'll call island. In fact, we'll call it island rocks, so we know what it is. So I'm going to select that. I'm going to right click on rocks, apply. So you can see the texture is now on our island. I think we're going to need more than one texture to get enough detail happening. So I'm just going to increase this click on the tag, the material tag on the island. We'll increase the number of iterations of that tile. I'm going to increase the number of tiles. I have 5 across the island in both directions. And that's it. Let's hit the render button and see what we've got. there we go, kind of nice. You can see the kind of 3D-ness of that displacement map happening. I think it could be even, we could go even further with that displace. What do I know? Let's make it 300. Okay, let's hit the render. There it is. And you'll notice there's some rocks even popping out of the ocean over here now from the flat surface. That's pretty nice. I'm happy with that. So, but I also want some grass. So what I'm going to have happening is I'm just going to duplicate the island. I'm going to delete the RD texture. And I'm going to call this one grass. And I'm going to create a new material. And I'm just going to make, in the diffusion, I'll just make noise. Again, I just love this FBM. It's just a really nice, messy noise. I'm going to make the scale quite big, 1,000. Let's say, maybe 5,000. And I'm going to set the mix mode to multiply. And then I'm just going to bring up a sort of dirty green color here, and that'll be our grass. So I'll apply that to grass, and see what happens. We're not really seeing any of the grass, so maybe what we need to do is adjust where the level at which the displacement map is working on our rocks. Let's have a quick look at it. Let's go. Oh, that's because that's set to 50. That was supposed to be minus 50. So hopefully, adjusting that will reveal some grass. Oh, there it is. Okay. So we're seeing some grass because the displacement map is pushing Rock Island down in places and up in places, and so we're getting this mismatch. Even though the two islands are, the geometry of them is identical. I think that the scale of the noise on our grass is a bit too big. So I'm just going to halve it. Instead of 5,000, let's just go 2,000. And yep. And there it is. Nice one. I think it could be even smaller. It's just a bit too lumpy. Let's quickly bring that up. But I think maybe 500 maybe would be good. There. Pretty good. Now, I want the grass to appear mainly at the top of the ridges, not down at the waterline. Oops, the render disappeared because I moved something. Okay, so we've got too much grass at the waterline. You wouldn't get it there. So what I'm going to do the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to increase the vertical scale of Grass Island and then move it down a bit. You'll see. So I'm just going to do that here directly, just dial in a number. So apparently it's 6,500 odd centimeters high. I'll make it around 7,000. Yeah, you just see our island just grew taller, and we're just going to move it down. Oops, rather than do it that way, I'll move it down minus 50 centimeters, minus 50. So it's just gone down. And you can see the effect of that already is that we've got grass more towards the top. So hit render. And there we go. That's starting to happen. I think we can move our grass down a little bit more, and then we have more rocks at the waterline. So let's just move it down. Another minus 30 centimeters. Apply. Let's see what happens. Yeah, so we've stretched the scale of Grass Island up, but moved it down physically. And there you go. You see we've got more rocks occurring at the water's edge than grass. I think we can move it down even a bit further. Let's go another 20 centimeters. Minus 20. Apply. and boom, there it is. And I'm pretty happy with that. That's nice. Okay, so now we want to do something with our trees. We'll get them on. They look a little bit big, a bit overscaled compared to our island, I think. Just make them smaller. Scale them down. Maybe something like that. Okay. I can hide this, get rid of this cube now. Don't need that. That's where I parked the rock texture earlier, so I didn't accidentally delete it when I removed unused materials. So it's gone. So I've got island glass. We'll put that in the set for our island. And now we're going to distribute some trees on the island. I'm going to distribute it on the grass. So we'll use a mograph object to do that, a cloner. So I'm going to throw our trees under that cloner object, and I set that object to it's cloning onto an object, and the object that we're going to clone onto will be island grass. There it is. And you can see at the moment the trees are all lying down. We could fix that with the cloner object by going to the transform tab and going -90, I think. And there we go, the trees are now pointing sort of perpendicularly out from the surface of the island, which is kind of a bit weird. We want them really just to grow up. So what I'm going to do is get rid of that transform, and under the object tab, I'm just going to uncheck align clone. So now they're all pointing up, which is good. And I'm going to increase the number. Oh, one thing we better do is here is check render instances, because otherwise we're making a lot of work for our rendering engine and our viewpoint. So it's important that we check render instance there. Now we're going to increase the number of trees with this count slider here. But you'll notice that having increased the number of trees, some of them are growing out of the ocean. We want them mostly growing out of the top of the island. So what we're going to do is we're going to create an image in body paint that limits where those trees occur. So let's just quickly do that now. I'm going to hide everything except for island grass. I'm going to create a new material, but it's not a Corona material. This is a regular Cinema4D default material. And I'm going to call it tree limit. And for where color is there, I'm going to create a new texture. And I've got 2000 by 2000, that's perfect. So we'll just go OK. And I'm going to apply that to Grass Island. Apply. So there it is. And now I'm going to jump to, up here in the top right hand corner, we've got layouts. I'm going to jump to body paint UV edit. And over here in the left, under materials, I'm going to uncheck cross tree limit. So that means it's now, we can paint onto it. And we actually paint in either window, the 3D window or the UV window. But we're going to mostly be working in here. We're going to create black and then just fill the whole texture with black. Okay. Now, thankfully the specular channel is allowing us to see where the island is. So now what we're going to do is create white and bring up our brush. That brush is a bit small. Make it larger. There we go. I'm just going to paint white onto the top of the ridge line, which is where we want the trees to grow, rather than down by the water's edge, where the roots would be inundated with salt water. I wish I hadn't said that. Anyway, because it's just fantasy. There we go. And nonsense. There we go. Alright, and again, you could have a lot of fun arranging where the trees go by painting in body point, but that'll do. That's all we need. So we go back to up here, layouts, go down to startup, and we're back where we started. And that looks looking pretty good. So that's where the trees are going to grow, but there's a couple of things we need to do. Let's turn our model on again. You can see our trees there. Let's just hide island rocks for a minute, see what's going on. We're going to use, we'll select our cloner, we're going to use an effector, and the effector is going to be a shader effector. And the default parameter, if we just drag that down to a cloner, click the cloner and go and check the effectors, we can see that the shader is here. If we didn't have the cloner selected when we created the shader, it wouldn't appear here. But you can always just sort of drag it here once it's been created. So we go to the shader. The default parameter is scale. So uncheck scale, and you see all the trees will shrink there. We don't want scale. We just want it to affect the visibility of the tree. So we don't want any trees out here. We only want trees visible where we see white. So we're going to check visibility. That's the parameter we want to affect. And this is where we choose the texture. So we're going to choose bitmaps, and you will find that at the tree limit texture that we just created is down the bottom there. Bingo. And now we're only getting trees where we see white. Lovely. I think we can really ramp up the number of trees we've got now. Let's maybe have a few thousand. So there we go. Pretty good. The thing about those trees though is that they're kind of all facing the same way and all at the same angle. So we want to increase them, and they've got two trees, so there's two different sizes, but let's get more variation. First of all, we're just going to hide this. We don't need this black and white image anymore, our tree limit image. So we'll just, over here in the object manager, we're going to just drag the material tag to the left of the grass tag, so it's no longer visible. We've got the grass tag showing up. We can reveal island rocks again. We select the cloner and go up to the mograph menu. We'll go get another effector. The one we want is a, oops, there's something wrong with my mouse. The effector we want is a random effector. The default parameter for the random effector is position, but we don't need that. They're already scattered randomly over the island. If we don't like that arrangement, we can have a look at another random arrangement, because there's a seed here, a random seed. There's a position of our trees, we can play with those. Whatever. So anyway, back to our random effector. What we want it to do is randomly affect the scale of our trees, but not individually in X, Y, Z plane, but just uniformly. Just change the whole size of the whole tree. So we're going to go, let's say 0.5. That's quite a substantial difference between trees already. And also rotation. It shouldn't all be facing the same way. So at least in plan, they're now up to 360 degrees of difference in the way they're facing. We can also tip them a little bit, and just add a bit of interest. So maybe 20 degrees in the vertical, and so on. Yeah, a little bit too much. There we go. So our trees are just sort of tipping around. Maybe just 10 is enough. There we go. And that's it. So we haven't hit the render button for a while. Not if we saved for a while. I'll do that in here. Let's just have a look at the render. No, there it is. Lovely. There's our kind of temperate, middle of nowhere Pine Island. Looking pretty good. I think I'm going to adjust the materials of the pine fronts just slightly and give them a bit more interest and give them some reflection and make the glossiness. Selection, glossiness down. I don't have a bump, but we're not looking at it too closely. For front 1, I'm going to copy the view channel and I'm going to paste it into translucency. Yeah, that should add a little interest. So as if the light can kind of pass through the fronts a bit, which is a more apparent effect the closer up we get. Let's check how we're looking over here. Taking a little while longer to render now because there's a lot of trees. And there it is. Kind of fun. And we're kind of done. That's really the end of the tutorial. I think in our example, we also had rocks around the water's edge. Let's just go to the first shot here. There it is. Yeah, I got these rocks around here. I basically scattered them around exactly the same way as we scattered the tree, and I used a map to limit where they were. So the rocks were only occurring at the water's edge, and so on. So exactly the same process as scattering the trees was used for those rocks. So back here, that's it. That's our island. I'm just going to take a slightly wider view of it before we kind of sign off. In fact, let's get fussy about the camera. So let's introduce a target camera, move the camera, target up a little, and I increase the angle of view, make it maybe 80. More sort of distorted wide angle view of it. There we go. And there it is, our island. Temperate volcanic island. And that's it. End of the tutorial. Well, thanks for watching. Cheers.